just got a whole load worse for Meghan Markle because her sister Samantha ain't going anywhere, with new headlines in the US about this bombshell new court battle taking place next month. Meghan Markle is gearing up for yet another legal bout with her half-sister Samantha Markle, the Post can confirm.
I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows, and I wished I had siblings.
Samantha filed the $75,000 lawsuit after the 44-year-old told Winfrey that she grew up as an only child during her and Prince Harry's bombshell March 2021 interview.
Because like everything, it's lie upon lie upon lie.
Meghan Markle has been left livid that Sam just won't go away.
Picture the royal fairy tale glass shattering one jagged shard at a time, and the hand swinging the hammer belongs to Meghan Markle's own half-sister. Samantha Markle isn't dropping petty anecdotes. She's detonating the origin story that made Meghan a global icon. Overnight, the Duchess, who branded herself as the self-made outsider, now faces a spotlight she can't dim. The sister who swears the whole persona was scripted, the pregnancies were staged, and the family ties were sliced clean so the narrative would sparkle. It starts with a single ice-cold line.
I lost my father. We knew that she didn't lose our dad, she iced our father. And there's a very big difference. It was deliberate.
She didn't lose our dad. She iced him. From there, Samantha goes for the crown jewels, calling Meghan's motherhood the crown jewel of the con, hinting at secret surrogates, airtight NDAs, and a royal hush-hush network built to erase inconvenient truths. This isn't tabloid chatter. It's a sister standing on the courthouse steps, waving what she claims are receipts. Meghan's silence only sharpens the blade. While the Duchess claims privacy, Samantha claims censorship. While Meghan leans on my truth, Samantha counters with the missing truth. And here's why you can't look away. Every time Meghan and Harry stay quiet, Samantha's megaphone gets louder. She says the palace glassed over inconsistencies, that the Netflix glow-up masked a darker rewrite, and that the children's very place in the royal line could be in play if her version proves real. It's a story too incendiary for gentle fact checks. Because once you question the birth of an heir, you're not playing PR chess. You're questioning the monarchy's endgame. So buckle up. Tonight, we're not exploring palace protocol, we're tracing a family fault line erupting on the world stage. Meghan says the past is settled. Samantha says it's just getting started. And only one narrative survives when the glass finally hits the ground. Samantha Markle's opening salvo lands like a gut punch to the palace PR machine.
In my opinion, she would still be a waitress if it wasn't for Dad.
In my opinion, she'd still be a waitress if it wasn't for Dad. With that single swipe, she flips Meghan's rags to royalty arc on its head. The Duchess, who dazzled the world as an underdog outsider, is recast as a master puppeteer, leveraging Hollywood charm, a carefully curated sob story, and a father's connections to vault herself into Windsor history. Samantha isn't content to expose cracks. She wants the entire facade torn down, brick by brick, until the Cinderella glass carriage looks more like a studio prop. Her narrative is sharp and rehearsed. She paints Meghan as the architect of her own myth, not the victim of aristocratic snobbery, but the author of a calculated ascent. Every speech about overcoming becomes, in Samantha's telling, stage direction. Every anecdote about struggling without siblings is a deliberate erasure of the family still very much alive and talking. Samantha's voice drips with incredulity.
We knew that she didn't lose our dad, she iced our father.
She didn't lose our dad, she iced him. It's a line designed to obliterate sympathy and redirect blame. Instead of courageous independence, Samantha frames distance as ruthless brand control. The power in Samantha's attack is its familiarity. She's not a commentator, she's blood, and blood rewrites the stakes. When a sister calls your triumph a con, the public leans in, not because they trust her more, but because family wars feel intimate and unfiltered. Samantha knows it, and she exploits that intimacy mercilessly, detailing forgotten phone calls, discarded relatives, and alleged betrayals that predate the palace. Meghan's glow-up, she insists, was never spontaneous. It was storyboarded, focus grouped, and rolled out like a prestige trailer. But the line that cuts deepest doesn't target fame. It targets family, and it sets the stage for Samantha's most inflammatory claim yet, that Meghan's rewrite didn't stop with relatives. It reached all the way into motherhood itself. Samantha's next strike zeroes in on Meghan's favorite fixture in her origin story.
I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows.
I grew up as an only child. It's a line Meghan delivered on global platforms, chat shows, charity stages, even that headline-grabbing Oprah sit-down, each time reinforcing the image of a solo striver who made it without a safety net. Samantha calls that line a deliberate deletion. She didn't misremember, she airbrushed us out. She recounts school holidays spent together, childhood photos left on the cutting room floor, paternal milestones where Meghan posed for cameras while Samantha says the rest of the family stood just outside the frame, literally cropped away. To Samantha, the erasure isn't collateral damage, it's strategy. By casting herself as an only child, Meghan sidestepped messy half-siblings, complex family dynamics, and any narrative that clashed with a streamlined Hollywood pitch. Lone girl beats the odds, then the establishment. The accusation bites because it reframes every heartfelt anecdote. The lonely lunches Meghan mentioned in speeches morph into curated moments of isolation. The triumphant outsider in the palace arc starts to read like a screenplay that required cutting inconvenient supporting characters for runtime. Samantha claims the edits went deeper than interviews, bank statements, addresses, even casual acquaintances were scrubbed from Meghan's public timeline. She didn't distance, she deleted. But Samantha saves her sharpest dagger for motive. According to her, Meghan didn't just need a cleaner backstory for sympathy. She needed one that made her eventual royal clash feel inevitable. Poor, solitary girl meets rigid monarchy and sparks fly. Siblings complicate that script. Involved parents blur the arc. So Samantha argues, Meghan wrote them out, turning kin into ghosts so the narrative could shine. And it's here inside this family vacuum that Samantha introduces her most radioactive allegation. Meghan didn't simply edit the past, she staged the present, starting with the 2 pregnancies that turned royal history on its head. If Meghan's only child claim irked Samantha, the pregnancy saga enrages her. She calls motherhood the crown jewel of the con, insisting the Duchess didn't just curate a life, she scripted the royal births themselves. Samantha drags long-running whispers back into the spotlight. The collapsing baby bump clip, the vanishing hospital details, the ever-shifting timelines that hardened into conspiracy fuel. To her, the glossy maternity coats and staged belly cradles were props. Scene work meant to shield a hidden surrogate and a stack of NDAs. Enter DL, the mystery woman Samantha cites like a star witness. DL claims she carried Archie and Lilibet in silence, armed with clinic receipts and a gag order that threatens financial ruin if she breaks it. Samantha doesn't tiptoe. She spits dates, doctor visits, even a supposed recruitment meetup in California. She frames DL as the ghost mother locked out of her own story while Meghan perfected the champagne-tinted bump walk for the cameras. It's a narrative that swaps royal glow for shadowy secrecy, turning motherhood into the most elaborate costume in palace history. Why does this land so hard? Because royal births aren't private milestones, they're public rites, steeped in pageantry and proof. Diana and Kate paraded newborns on hospital steps within hours. Meghan chose total lockdown. No window wave, no doctor photo op, no tidy procession through St. Mary's grand doors. Samantha calls that break with tradition Exhibit A, arguing it wasn't privacy, it was evasion. Each missing detail, she says, hardened public suspicion until the bump clip and the folding fabric freeze frames felt less like glitches and more like evidence. And here's the fuse. Samantha taunts the Sussex silence. If it's all fiction, prove it. One DNA test and it's done. But instead of proof, she says, Meghan sends lawyers and Harry keeps quiet, turning that silence from classy to suspicious in the court of public opinion. Which sets the stage for the next move that speaks louder than any press release. The calculated quiet that Meghan and Harry wear like armor, and how it's starting to sound a lot like confession. In scandals this radioactive, a single sentence can douse the flames. Yet Meghan and Harry haven't offered one. No on-camera denial, no legal affidavit, not even a pointed tweet. Only carefully worded threats aimed at publishers who dare repeat the surrogate story. The tactic is familiar to crisis consultants. Weaponize silence, let curiosity burn itself out. But Samantha weaponizes that very silence, framing it as a tactical pause that protects a lie, not a family. Here's how she spins it. If the pregnancies were authentic, a DNA sample, or at bare minimum a direct "Boom, this is false," would end the circus in an afternoon. Instead, the Sussexes unleash attorneys to rattle sabers over baseless rumors while never addressing the central charge. To Samantha's audience, that isn't poise, it's proof. Because in public disputes, silence doesn't land as dignity, it lands as doubt. And doubt is the oxygen that keeps conspiracy theories blazing. Worse for Meghan. Every day the hush lingers. Her brand promised transparency, vulnerability, my truth looks flimsier. This is the couple that televised therapy sessions, envelope-pushed palace secrets, even read Archie a bedtime story on camera for charity. The sudden retreat now feels less like protection, more like selective candor. Truth when it pays, privacy when it pinches. Critics note how Harry, once the loose cannon prince, has turned into a mute sentinel. His posture, arms folded, gaze down, reads to body language watchers as guarded complicity. Is he shielding Meghan from scrutiny or shielding himself from an answer he already knows? Either way, the vacuum is deafening. Silence can be strategic, but when the stakes involve heirs and titles, it quickly curdles into suspicion. And that's where the spotlight tilts off the Duchess and onto the Duke. Because if Meghan's hush feels calculated, Harry's quiet feels personal. Is he a partner in secrecy or a pawn in someone else's script? Once the surrogate rumors flare, the camera pans to Prince Harry. For years, Harry's rebel streak drove headlines. Club scuffles, Vegas escapades, the Nazi uniform scandal that nearly torched his public image. He survived each by confronting the fire, head-on. Sometimes with an apology, sometimes with a disarming grin. This time, he offers neither. He stands beside Meghan at red carpet galas, nods through polished keynote speeches, then vanishes when the surrogate question surfaces. The transformation from outspoken insurgent to stone-faced guardian is jarring, and Samantha weaponizes it. She paints Harry as the man who once demanded transparency from the monarchy but now shields opacity inside his own house. In her framing, Harry isn't just complicit, he's essential. A duchess may dodge, but a prince's silence confers legitimacy. If Harry publicly laughed off the claims, "Of course my wife carried our kids," most rumors would fizzle. Instead, he tightens the veil. Behind palace gates that might scan as loyalty. Outside, it reads as choreography, the dutiful husband guarding a narrative too fragile to face scrutiny. Royal watchers note subtle shifts. Interviews once free-flowing are now tethered to talking points. Spontaneous banter is replaced by carefully cued lobs about mental health, safe terrain far from maternity timelines. Even his memoir, touted as unfiltered, breezed past pregnancy details with surgical brevity. The omission felt less like editing and more like avoidance. One more paragraph that never made final draft. Critics ask, is Harry protecting Meghan from a hostile press or protecting himself from a truth that complicates his authentic husband brand? Supporters argue he's exhausted, done playing defense for every rumor. Detractors insist real rebels don't duck hard questions. Either stance leaves a vacuum. Samantha eagerly fills. And outside the palace Netflix bubble, public patience thins. When the prince who once vowed to live a life of service goes radio silent on the biggest service, honesty about lineage skepticism breeds, which drags the spotlight back to the one arena even royals can't control, the shifting mood on the street. Because as Harry stays quiet, the narrative he's trying to protect keeps slipping through his hands. When royals stumble, gossip columns usually feast and fade. Not this time. Samantha's barrage hit at the precise moment public patience with the Sussex saga was wearing thin. Polling out of the UK and Canada now shows a double-digit rise in respondents who call Meghan and Harry untrustworthy. Numbers that would have been unthinkable 2 years ago when the Oprah interview crowned them symbols of candor. Even in US focus groups, their safest market, terms like over-curated and performative trend upward. The fairy tale sheen is dulling, replaced by a suspicion that every heartfelt pose is a calculated frame. Corporate partners notice first. A streaming executive leaked terse concern that viewer empathy is a finite resource. Translation: a new docu-series only works if audiences still believe the heroes. A major podcast sponsor quietly shifted ad spend after Samantha's allegations spiked search traffic for Meghan's surrogate. When advertisers sense turbulence, they don't wait for verdicts, they reroute budgets. Inside the palace, aides brief journalists with "I told you" shrugs, framing the Sussexes as a self-inflicted storm that vindicates Queen Elizabeth's old maxim, never complain, never explain. Meghan and Harry tried the opposite. Complain, then explain, then stay silent, and now find themselves isolated from both camps. Royal traditionalists see rule breakers, progressives see brand builders who won't practice full transparency. That leaves a shrinking middle ground of defenders forced to argue, silence should be respected, even as each quiet day breeds fresh TikTok think pieces dissecting belly angles. Meanwhile, Samantha's social feeds spike with followers hungry for the next allegation. In the optics war, momentum matters, and right now she has it. Every unanswered claim feels like an open door. The longer it stays open, the more the Sussex brand built on relatability and fearless truth-telling looks brittle. Which leaves Meghan with one unavoidable crossroads: double down on silence and hope the storm burns out, or shatter the quiet with evidence powerful enough to reset the board once and for all. Samantha's accusations have turned into a wrecking ball. Every swing chips at Meghan's two most valuable currencies: credibility and control. Credibility, because a sister's claims feel uncomfortably intimate. Control, because the Duchess who once owned the narrative now watches it gallop ahead of her, fueled by silence and speculation. Harry's hush only thickens the fog. Their brand built on speaking our truth is now cornered by the one truth they won't address. So what resets the board? Not another lawsuit, not a finely lit podcast about resilience. Only sunlight, something undeniable enough to crush rumor in a single news cycle. A certified hospital record unredacted, a pediatrician's statement, or if they're truly ready to incinerate the gossip, a voluntary DNA confirmation. Anything short of that risks the worst PR death, endless doubt. And endless doubt erodes everything. Speaking fees, streaming deals, even that fresh start aura that once made the Sussexes impossible to ignore. Yet exposure is expensive. Release too much medical detail and the tabloids dine on it forever. Admit to surrogacy, if it happened, and centuries of royal precedent flips upside down. Deny with paperwork and critics call it forged. The Sussexes are trapped between two brutal truths. Silence feeds conspiracy, but disclosure invites dissection. The longer they stall, the more Samantha's voice sets the tempo. She's already framed the choice as a dare. If it's fiction, prove it. Every unreturned volley makes her sound less vindictive, more prophetic. So here we stand. Brand on the brink, monarchy side-eyeing, sponsors doing risk math. One decisive reveal could clear the haze or confirm the deepest doubts. Until that moment, the Duchess's fairy tale hangs in suspension, and the audience she once captivated holds the pen. Your verdict. If you were in Meghan's shoes, which off-ramp would you take? Total disclosure, strategic partial proof, or permanent silence? And if you're watching from the sidelines, what single piece of evidence would finally close this chapter for good?